All right. What's up, moviegoers and true believers? Welcome to Real Comics Podcast, initial podcast 1.5. I am your host, Felipe, a.k.a. Voodoo57. With me, as always, is my good friend, Speedy G33.
Hey, folks, what's up? Let's talk some comics and let's talk some movies.
See, now that sounds like a plan. All right. For those of you who don't know, we tried this Wednesday night. We did have a little bit of technical difficulties as well as speech issues. We had to reset our podcast because we had volume and camera issues. So we hope this run of it will be a lot better because we always want to give you the best that we have to offer. So before we get into our Sinister 6 of 2016, let's give you a little background as we did Wednesday night about ourselves. Myself, Voodoo57, I am a long-time, big-time, deep-time movie fan since the 70s when I was stuck in a chair in a row of seats at a theater while trying to watch James Bond's Live and Let Die at the theater my dad was working at on base. So ever since then, I've fallen in love with all kinds of movies and being in the movie theater. And I've been doing it for quite some time. I'm the first in line guy, and I am a self-professed Star Wars geek and movie freak. I love all kinds of film. So that's going to be kind of my end in it. Speedy G, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I guess I'm bringing the comic book vibe to everything. My dad's been in the book business my whole life. So as soon as I could read, I was going everywhere with him. And most of these used bookstores or new bookstores always had comics. So I read a lot of comics. I'm in heaven right now because all these comics I read as a kid are being made into movies, even the bad ones. Guess I'm getting a little greedy and complaining about them, but I should be happy. They're all being made into movies, so lots of excitement out there.
See, it's your time. This is your time right now.
Yeah.
Just like in Goonies when he says, "It's our time." It's your time. You're living the dream. That's for sure. Comic book movies are everywhere. So as we get going here, one of the other things we want to tell you is normally we will do a movie review. We will give you a spoiler-free portion of it, and then we will get into spoilers, and we'll also talk about maybe news of the day. But for this podcast, we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and by that, we're just going to be talking about our 6 most anticipated comic book movies of the year. Please share with us your comments and your thoughts. Yes, there are top 6. And then we will reveal our last anticipated top 3, our personal top 3 of the year. Speedy G, why don't you get us started with our first movie? I think we'll both have interest in that one.
Exactly. Our first movie is Deadpool, a former special forces operative turned mercenary. He's subjected to a rogue experiment, gets a little bit of Wolverine mutant in him, and he basically leaves him with accelerated healing powers, and he can't be killed. It stars Ryan Reynolds, directed by Tim Miller. We have Morena Baccarin, T.J. Miller, and a few others. What did you think? I know you've seen it.
Well, see, that's the thing. Before we get too deep into it, we both have to admit we have seen the film. I saw it last night at its Thursday premiere at about 7 o'clock. Andrew, I think you saw it this morning, correct?
I saw it this morning. Couldn't get there last night, so I had to do the early bird special.
Definitely. So while we're not going to give you our full-on review, at least I'm not, that's for sure, I do want to say that, you know what, I really enjoyed it. And for more on Deadpool, we will look to Wednesday's movie review, and we will give you a more in-depth look at that from that standpoint. So go check it out. Don't take our word for it. I loved it, but go check it out. Also, something to keep in mind here, too, is that, you know, no matter what we say, always go and find these out for yourself. Andrew, what did you think?
I loved it. It hit a lot of the marks I was looking for. Things that as a comic book fan I was looking for, there's been a lot of emphasis on the rated R, the dirty jokes, all that. There were other things I was looking for that it delivered. Like I said, I don't want to get too deep. We're going into a review soon, but get out there, try to see it. And as you and I always talk, it's the best to see it on opening week. You see with like-minded people that are fans as well as you that are excited to see it. And the crowd adds a lot to the enjoyment of the film, like anything else. So,
yep, couldn't have said it any better myself. See it with a fan crowd. Don't let the crowd scare you. with assigned seating in theaters, the way they worked, you don't have to be the first in line guy like me all the time. But, when you've been friends for 20 years, this is what we do. We talk about movies, and I think we both are going to drill this one home on Wednesday.
Yeah, I can't wait to share with you guys. God, it was fun.
Yeah, that was a blast. Good times. All right, so should we just go ahead and kind of scooch on over to the next one? All right, Speedy G, here comes the next one. So I've got Batman to introduce, Batman versus Superman. This is Zack Snyder's sequel to last year's Superman from 2 years ago. Fearing the actions of Superman are left unchecked, Batman takes on Superman while the world wrestles with what kind of hero it really needs. Again, directed by Zack Snyder, starring a myriad of people. You've got Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Amy Adams. You've also got Gail Gadot as Wonder Woman. You've got Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller, Diane Lane, Jenna Malone, on and on and on. Speedy G, how much are you looking forward to this film in your mind?
Well, it was interesting when you started to intro it. You said we've got Batman, and that's one of the big things that everyone's concerned about this movie. Is this a Batman and a Superman movie, or is this a Batman with a Superman cameo? This is easily the most controversial film of the 6 we're going to talk about. Either you're going to love it or you're going to hate it. And it goes back to Man of Steel, which is probably one of the most divisive movies in the comic book genre. Fans argue about this to death. So thinking about that, Ben Affleck really has to step up and carry this film. He's the star. He's the lead. Snyder loves Batman.
Yeah.
Nolan, because he's very influenced by Nolan's Batman.
Right.
And he wants to tell a Batman story with Superman in it. So if Affleck doesn't win us over as Batman number 5, 6, 7 that's come out, then we're not going to buy this film. Your thoughts,
you know what? I'm right there with you, man. I gotta tell you, I'm not a tremendous fan of the Man of Steel. I left feeling disappointed out of that movie. I had some pretty high hopes for it. The trailer, when it initially came out, definitely grabbed you from a movie standpoint. So I was pretty excited. It was done properly, I'll have to say. But that movie did not carry what moviegoers and what I think traditional comic book lovers love about Superman. And so that kind of ruined it. And so now we're coming into this new movie, and my hopes are not there. No hopes are there. The new trailer came out. It was in front of the Deadpool movie. It was interesting. I almost felt like it should have been the leadoff. But I still have fear and doubt, and I'm unsure how, one, he's going to put all these people together in a proper fashion. Not everybody can be a Lord of the Rings type cast and have everything work out. And two, he tends to screw with what we know of in our lore of these characters. And that is a big deal to me. Not being a super deep comic book fan, I at least know the basics. And the basics, if you can't touch on those, I think might be a problem. So you're right. Divisive, controversial. What else do you think, man?
Yeah, and I can tell you from a comic book standpoint, he does base it on comic books. But the choices he makes are not necessarily the comics that the majority of people have read. So it's like you're taking a smaller story or a different telling of Superman's lore, of Batman's lore, and you're going that direction just to be a bit different. Where people, are expecting kind of what their character they've grown up with. And I get it, Nolan went off in his own direction, but he did it so well. And Snyder hasn't done that yet, in my opinion. I'm willing to give him another chance. He has a nice track record. I like The Watchmen. I like Sucker Punch. I'm a fan of 300. He's done some good things. He just disappointed me with the Man of Steel. And so we get to Batman versus Superman, and you're talking about all these characters. I honestly don't believe they're going to be in the movie very much. I think they're talking about it just to drum up to say, look, Avengers and X-Men fans, we have lots of people too. But the reality is we're only going to get Wonder Woman. And if you blink, you're going to miss Flash, and you're going to miss Cyborg, and you're going to miss Aquaman. So again, goes back to Affleck. Affleck needs to
Right.
carry this film.
Well, see, that's where I agree with you, because if I have any hope at all, while, you know, who would win in a fight between Batman versus Superman, sorry to say, I'm a Batman fan, and I'd love to see him at least get to kick a little ass. We know Superman is kind of that echelon, that top echelon, the end all be all, the ceiling. But if Batman is smart, you know what I mean? He plays it wise. He plays it even maybe a little dirty and underhanded. That's what I love about Batman, that he's not really your typical. He's a vigilante. He's got hero in him. He's got all these things and all these things wrong with him. He's a broken man. And, you know, you made a good point in our conversation on the phone, and I really want you to talk about that on this podcast. And that was, I had a big complaint about, you know, why we have Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. And to me, Lex Luthor is the ultimate in cunning. The guy who gets out of every situation and is one step ahead, and I just don't feel it or see it. But you said something great. Why don't you see if you can talk about that for a minute real quick?
Yeah, I'll try to bring that thought back. I've been thinking a lot because Eisenberg looks horrible. I mean, you can't sell it to me. He's one step above of the horrible Doctor Doom that Fantastic Four just gave us. And I thought about, why would they go this direction? And as I watch these trailers that have come out, let's be honest, Ben Affleck's version of Bruce Wayne is more Lex Luthor than Jesse Eisenberg's is. We're talking about a multimillionaire who is a head of a corporation that develops tech, who's anti-alien, who's putting all his efforts and all his funding into finding a way to destroy Superman. That's Lex Luthor. Now, yes, it's a little bit of Bruce Wayne, and they're saying it's an older, more rugged Bruce Wayne. He's kind of tired of the world and stuff. Grumpy Bruce Wayne, I guess. But so if you have that and you make Lex Luthor kind of strong, tough, billionaire guy putting all his resources to beat Superman, they're the same character.
Right.
So by him making a choice to have this type of Bruce Wayne, he can't really have that kind of Lex Luthor. And then we get this little, I don't know what he is, but he's annoying, and it's hard for me to see him as a villain.
Yeah, I have read no articles. Yeah, that would have been good. I haven't read any articles on this movie because I have been so disinterested. So I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I thought that was an amazing point. It's almost like I think we're going to see, my prediction is that we would see Jesse Eisenberg now, not necessarily as your typical Lex Luthor as that we're used to, because he does like to tweak with stuff, but he's going to be the trigger point. In other words, he's just going to cause something that causes something that causes something else. And that's a shame, because let me tell you, I mean, your comic book knowledge is way above mine, but I know enough to know that Lex Luthor is one of the top bad guys out there. You know what I mean? Joker is the ultimate, clearly. But Lex Luthor, I think, should rank up there fairly high. Wouldn't you agree with that statement?
Yeah, and that's a frustrating thing, is because I'm a Marvel guy, but I'll give it to DC. They have the best villains.
Yep.
Down. The best rogue gallery we have. You don't really need to tweak them because they're all pretty damn good. Now, you need to tweak, the Marvel ones a little bit to fit movies and things, but God, he's just such a good character. And being the mastermind behind everything, that then they go into Justice League and everything. I don't know. Maybe they pull it off. Maybe they surprise me and there's stuff I haven't seen, and we'll just have to wait and see.
I totally agree. So hopefully they set us up properly. That's for sure. I mean, because right now I'm unimpressed, to say the least.
Well, one other thing that I wanted to touch is Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot. Gadot, I believe is how you say her name.
Gadot, one of those two.
That we haven't heard her speak yet. And this is a major character that has to share screen time with some big time actors, especially, again, Affleck, we'll go back to it. And she needs to hold her own. She doesn't need to feel like she's a sidekick to these characters.
Yeah. Did you not get the Batman
chops? She needs
did you
I haven't seen that new trailer.
We'll have to talk about that later. She actually does have a small sentence in there, but believe me,
a sentence.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say it a sentence. It's like 3 words.
Well, at least
It's
he's talking. Thank God.
yeah, but believe me, I think your statement is still true. We haven't necessarily seen if she's got what it takes to stand
Yeah,
with the
and I'm
big
not one of
boys.
these people that's upset with her visual look. I mean, it's all been out there. She's not buff enough. She's too skinny. She doesn't have the right look. You know what? I think she looks fine. I look at it and she looks fine. Um, but she hasn't really shown us she can act in anything she's done in the past. The Fast and the
Yeah,
Furious, she didn't really act too much in it. It was an action film. She played a role where she was to look very pretty and kind of like a femme fatale, but she didn't really have to say much. They're giving this woman her own movie. She is playing the most popular female hero in all of comics. You know, I'll argue that with anyone.
right.
She needs to have some chops, and so I'm really interested to see what she has. You know,
Wow, I definitely agree with you there. I have to say she's slowly wearing on me. I haven't been thrilled from the Wonder Woman I know, but she's wearing on me. It's all right. Again, you know, I have some hopes, some hopes. So I don't want to completely slam. We're not completely slamming it. We do have some hopes that
yeah, I'm
we
not a
hope just
DC
kind of keep
hater,
coming out.
guys. I
Right.
mean, like I watch Flash religiously. I love the DC, and I want this to work. I guess I got a bad taste in my mouth after Batman or Man of Steel, excuse me.
Yeah.
And so he's got to win me back over. That's for sure.
Agreed. Agreed. All right, man. What do you say we move on to the next
Yeah, let's
one
move on to
here?
the next one. The next one's a Marvel film, Marvel Entertainment film, to be specific. We have Captain America: Civil War. Political interference in the Avengers' activities causes a rift between former allies Captain America and Iron Man. Basically, all the stuff that's happened in the movies before has finally led to a point where we have Tony on one side and we have Cap on another side. And it's going to divide the heroes up, and they're both going to basically, both groups are going to fight each other for a reason that we can get into as we go. How you feeling? You excited for this one?
This is probably it's definitely in my top three. As I mentioned, kind of on our initial try at this, I feel personally that the Captain America series of movies throughout Marvel is the best standalone set so far, and I think that this movie is going to be the perfect bookend for this trilogy. And I said it then, I'm saying it now. People loved Captain America, the First Avenger. People loved Captain America, Winter Soldier, has been probably one of my favorites up until this point. I expect and hope that Captain America Civil War sends it home, brings in that third one, and I am dying to see it the way that they're all matched up. I love it. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Um, I apologize. I didn't mention the actors. We're Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr. We have new actors coming in. We have Phil Rudd. We have Scarlett Johansson. I could go on and on and on because we know these actors as their character now. And one of the beautiful things about Civil War, where Batman and Superman is trying to cram it all into one movie, wants me to care that Batman and Superman don't like each other when I've never seen them on screen together. We have so much here. We know these characters. And so when they fight, it's going to matter. And when the minor characters fight, it's going to matter. We're going to care. And that's the beauty of, this is the payoff. This is the first real payoff that Marvel's going to get for all their work. And I'm really stoked to see what they do with it.
Yeah, utterly agree. Payoff is probably the catchphrase of the day when it comes to this Marvel setup. I mean, the trailer alone, I remember you and I talking about it for at least half an hour because you saw one point of view where I saw another, and that initial trailer, we haven't even seen the last one. I'm sure they'll give us one more, but that initial trailer, you had the sense that, man, they're really picking on Tony, and Tony looks like the guy that's going down, where I thought, no, it's Captain America. Captain America's defending himself, man. And so it's already got us divided, the fan, and I'm telling
Cap,
you.
but I felt bad for Tony on that.
I remember I was like, dude, are you serious? Dude, he deserved everything he's got. Tony's pompous. Don't forget this and don't forget that. And yeah, we talked about it for half an hour. We're not going to do it on this show, but that was a big discussion when that initial trailer first came out. So, definitely super excited and super stoked to finally see this bookend. Definitely one of my top three.
Well, it's interesting is Spider-Man's in this movie, and I mentioned, Spider-Man is my favorite character in comics. I've been reading Spider-Man as long as Spider-Man's been out. I love Spider-Man. I
Right.
have not had any thought about him being in the movie. I don't care. It actually doesn't matter that much to me. They give me 2 or 3 minutes of him. It's icing. I am so excited. I see Black Panther over there. I see a fully realized Vision now getting into this. I see Ant-Man integrating with these guys. I'm excited, man. This is what Marvel, like I said, has been building. And another thing I forgot that I talked about the other night is these Marvel movies are very episodic. So I get where some people don't like them. Like they'll go to a movie and they felt like, well, it didn't really end and it left a little bit hanging. They're episodes, and I can get how a certain fan doesn't like that. But as a comic book reader, you rarely get resolution in a comic. You have to read a lot of comics before you finally get to the point where they resolve something. And then they even revisit it later. There's no ending. So it doesn't bother me. I guess the only annoyance is that I got to wait 3 years to find out what happened next. But
I'd agree. I mean, TV's doing it. A show will end and we get a little teaser for the next thing coming, and you can't wait till next week. Same thing with the movies. I've never had an issue with it. I don't think I've ever had an issue with it. It harkens back to that Saturday morning series.
yeah.
What will happen next week? Tune in, on Saturday and find out. I think it's that same kind of feel, and I like it.
It's a common complaint, and I get it. I mean, Star Wars got rocked by it a little. If you want to go back to the newest Star Wars, people didn't like how it felt like it was the beginning of something. Well, because it is. But
Right.
I don't know. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. And
That's for sure.
Marvel's doing what they should be doing. So good to go on that one.
Cool. All right. So I think we've gotten pretty excited over that one. Should we move on to the next one?
Sure.
Okay. So our next one is going to be X-Men Apocalypse, directed by your favorite director, Bryan Singer. With the emergence of the world's first mutant, Apocalypse, the X-Men must unite to defeat his extinction-level plan. Again, directed by Bryan Singer, stars Jennifer Lawrence, Olivia Munn, Michael Fassbender, also has James McAvoy, Sophie Turner, Rose Byrne, Evan Peters. Again, another star-studded cast for another big Marvel, kind of Marvel franchise movie. It's a Marvel movie, but
Fox.
What do you think? Where does this rate on your anticipation there?
Low, very low. I'll say it again. I don't like the way Singer handles the X-Men. I just don't. There's only one X-Men movie I like, and it's First Class, which he didn't direct, which Vaughn directed, he did Kingsman as well. And I like the way he did things. He incorporated the uniforms, got away from the black leather, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. look. He just caught the fun. That they're kids, they're at school, but they also happen to be mutants. And Singer's never got that from me. And interesting thing is today, in front of Deadpool, they had the X-Men trailer, but they had the early X-Men trailer, not the one that just came out recently for Super Bowl. They had the old one. And I'm looking at this, and it just falls so flat. It doesn't get me excited at all when I look at this. Gosh, I could go on forever. I'm just not happy with the X-Men and Singer.
Well, here's where you and I are going to start to differ a little bit. I am at least a little more curious about where they're going to finish with this. I did enjoy the last movie, and I also enjoyed First Class, so I enjoyed Days of Future Past as well. Maybe it's my lack of the depth in the X-Men movie series that I enjoyed, but I have to admit, I liked it. I liked the new characters they didn't introduce, but I know they didn't get a lot of screen time. I'm curious to see how this whole shift to the kids now, the kid version of Jean Grey, the kid version of Nightcrawler, the kid version of Cyclops. I'm curious to see how this is all going to fit into the fold. I do have a curiosity about it. I'm not as down on it, but I totally see your point. Don't worry, I totally get it. I totally see your point. You know what I mean?
You mentioned Days of Future Past, how they introduced Bishop, they introduced Blink, and some other characters. And I will give the X-Men credit. They're easily the most inclusive cast of all the books. They make sure there's a lot of female characters. There's a lot of people of color. But the comics are like that too, so it's not hard to do. But they don't give them any meat. Singer goes back to the well over and over and over again with Magneto. It doesn't matter who's playing him, old Magneto or new Magneto. Magneto's his major baddie. He goes to Professor X, and now he's throwing in a little bit of Jennifer Lawrence, which I get. She wasn't a big star when they first got her, but she is now, and they're trying to sell tickets. He also goes to Hugh Jackman, which will not be in this film. So let's see how he does without having Hugh to kind of be his lead. Excuse me, quote, X-Men.
Right.
Someone that, because, Professor X and doesn't go out in the field. So, yeah, we got Storm, we've got Angel, we've got Cyclops and all these guys, but are they going to get anything? And when I look at who's been cast, they're an interesting cast, but can you look at any of these kids and tell me this is the kid that's going to take the franchise into the future? I mean, which one of these actors?
I don't know, but if you ask me, I think they're banking on the young lady who's playing Jean Grey. That would be my guess, and I have a funny feeling you think she's miscast?
Miscast. I think she's a.
We're talking Sophie Turner. From
Game of Thrones. Girl. She's great on Game of Thrones. She has real life red hair, but she's miscast. Because she's got to be your typical everyday American teenager, and I'm not sure she can pull it off. I haven't seen it in the trailers.
Right.
I'm not sure she's cast right for this. It's going to be interesting on her. I think the kid playing Nightcrawler looks awesome.
No, he looks great.
I haven't heard him say anything, so I don't know yet. Olivia Munn gets kudos for at least looking like her character in the comics. But again, that's not the other guy's fault.
Right.
That's what they've decided to.
But here's the interesting thing. Again, something that gives me hope. At least Olivia Munn is the first, I would say, actress that really knows the character she's about to play.
Oh yeah.
She reads comics. She was cosplaying her most likely at some point in her life. She started on the G4 channel as a reporter or as what you want to call him, a fill-in or anything like that. And her little legend has grown on its own. And to have an actress who's basically done and knows all about the character. She didn't have to go do research. She already knew what was coming.
Well, in interviews, Bryan Singer has said that she knows more about the character than he does.
That says a lot.
They sat down and they were talking about things in the writer. She was like, "Oh, but wait, that can happen because of this and this," and they just basically told her to be quiet. She made a joke that they told her, "Oh, you need to stop," because she knows the character. And Psylocke isn't an easy character to bring to film, and I get it. The X-Men are not easy. Like, one complaint is, oh, well, now you have different ages and you have the wrong characters matched up with each other because of age, because of the timeline. If you really know X-Men, don't stick to a timeline. They don't stick to a timeline. They're notorious for time traveling and screwing up the timeline. They get scolded by S.H.I.E.L.D. They get scolded by the Avengers on a regular basis because they go back in time, go forward in time, expose themselves to their younger or older selves and mess things up. They're notorious for this. So I'm okay with a timeline thing, but at least give us the heart of the character. And I'm not sure they have. Singer doesn't get them. He doesn't get the fun aspect. And I'm just not a fan.
Right. I think we're split on this one.
A little more on Wednesday. I'm a little calmer today.
Yeah. And we're definitely a little bit split on this one. We'll see where it ranks in our top three. That's for sure. It's funny. You were just saying about how they screw things up in the time. Sounds like a show that we're watching now, doesn't it? Flash.
Yeah, but see, Flash does it right. That's how you do timeline. But I just mean in general, the comics that are notorious for making crazy things like having old Cyclops and young Cyclops sitting next to each other, having old Cyclops going to young Jean Grey's room to talk to her about something, and then realizing that, whoa, this is getting kind of awkward because I actually had a crush on you when I was young, and you're still young and pretty, and this is inappropriate because I'm
creeper.
Yeah, and they make a joke about that, and he comes out of the room, and I think it's Kitty Pryde or someone says, "You will not be in the room alone with her ever again." That's kind of so fascinating. They point that stuff out,
Crazy. All right, hey, let's move on to the next one. What do you got?
All right, we have Suicide Squad. definitely excited for this. This is The Squad. We have it. It's a David Ayers film. Margot Robbie, Scott Eastwood, Will Smith. Um, just a great cast of young, not really necessarily known to everybody, but great actors. This is a secret government agency recruits imprisoned supervillains to execute dangerous black ops missions in exchange for their freedoms. Be excited?
I'm stoked. My favorite thing in films, and you and I discussed this many times before, I love either that anti-villain, that anti-hero, the guy you kind of want to like, the guy that you know you shouldn't like, but you do. You don't feel sorry for him, but you know he's going to do something shitty along the way and do something for himself. I am so hyped for this. The trailer that came out recently was amazing. I was singing Bohemian Rhapsody forever until the point it drove my girlfriend crazy. I'm like, seriously? You know, I want to see it. I wish that it had a sooner release date. We have to wait till August for this thing, man. That's a long summer. I want to see The Squad, and I want to see The Squad now. And let's not forget crazy Jared Leto, the crap that he was doing on set, the crap he was pulling off on set during people's birthdays, and he was deep into that role. What do you think?
Fun. This movie's going to be fun. It looks so good, without a doubt. And it looks dark, like a DC movie. You know, DC's going for dark, and that's okay, but they're making it fun. I see this movie. It looks like chaos. It looks like I'm going to laugh the right amount. I'm just going to be excited. It's everything Batman and Superman has not shown me. Like I said, Snyder seems angry over there with his film. He's making an angry film. Ayers is making a fun film. And I just love him as a director. I loved Fury, and I think he's going to bring some of that to this film, where he's going to incorporate this ensemble. They're all going to get a chance to shine. Like you said, these are bad dudes.
Yeah.
I think the guys in that tank were bad dudes. You will not be inviting them over for dinner. But you know what? You cared about them. You rooted for them, and that's what we're going to get out of this film.
Yep. I'm beyond excited, man. And I told you this this is just crazy. I mean, I almost feel like we're getting the anti-Guardians of the Galaxy. Do you know what I mean? I think it's going to be that much fun, right? Like an anti-Guardians of the Galaxy. Could you imagine Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy meeting up in a perfect world?
I think Guardians is a little more Star Wars-ish. That's the only difference, I would say, where it's a little more, it has the Disney feel to it, I guess. And I don't see a Disney feel on Suicide Squad. Like I said, it still feels like a DC. And this is, I get, the DC fans want this dark universe, and that's fine when it's done right. And it looks like it's going to be done right in Suicide Squad. And yeah, I mean, the Joker thing, you know, some people are, he's not going to be as good as Ledger, this and that. You know what? It's a different depiction of Joker. He's not the main character anyway. So let's see what he builds, you know.
I was nervous at first. You and I, as always, talked about it forever. I was nervous. And then the pictures came out. Was it Rolling Stone that published those first with all the tattoos and the grill? And
I think it might have been Entertainment Weekly.
Or was it Entertainment Weekly? Yeah, and then, you know, it had
it's been a while.
Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, but they are my favorite Gotham power couple. You know,
I thought about that. You said that the other day. Sorry, I'll put Selena Kyle and Bruce Wayne up against the man.
Oh, I don't know, man. I need a little I don't know. Is that the bad boy in me, Andrew? I need a little villain. I need a little not good, a little naughty.
A bad girl too.
Yeah, but Bruce balances her out, whereas the Joker does not balance anything for Harley Quinn. That's for sure. Crazy. All right, very cool. Suicide Squad. I think safe to say we're both looking forward to it.
Yes, definitely.
Probably high up on there. All right. So we got one final movie. Let's get into that one next. I have for us Doctor Strange. Now, this one will be a little strange because, you know, admittedly, I maybe read one comic when I was about 7, and I just didn't get it. So this one will be interesting. Doctor Strange, after his career is destroyed, a brilliant but arrogant, conceited surgeon gets a new lease on life when a sorcerer takes him under his wing and trains him to defend the world against evil. This is directed by Scott Derrickson, who we'll talk about in a minute on my end. It stars Rachel McAdams, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Tilda Swinton, to name a few there. And of course, Cumberbatch playing Doctor Strange. So, Speedy G33, what do you think about Doctor Strange?
I'm actually pretty excited about this. The thing is, it's so far away, we don't know as much, so it's the anticipation level's a little less. But I think it's going to take the Marvel movies in a new direction. I love the cast. I can argue they might have the best acting chops of all the casts we're looking at.
Yeah.
You know, Doctor Strange is different. Like you said, it was a trippy comic. I didn't read it religiously. I read it here and there. I enjoyed him in he would show up in other people's comics. It's just going to go somewhere that we haven't seen Marvel go, which is always interesting. You know, you keep the comic book genre fresh. This is the way you do it. You keep going somewhere different.
I would agree with that. It's different is the way that it has to go, so we don't delve into that so-called fear word, that comic book fatigue.
Yeah.
You and I were talking about this for months ago. We were worried that people would just freak out and that comic book movies would just go the way. Somebody even said it. Who was it that said it? They were going to go the way of the Western. We weren't just going to.
It was Spielberg.
Spielberg's. Was it Spielberg? Wow. And so, you know, like it's going to go away. And the more that they change them, like with Deadpool or like with this, with Doctor Strange, and they give us something we've never seen before, I think we're going to keep coming back for more and more and more. And people are going to forget about that term, you know, comic book fatigue. What do you think?
You know what annoys me about that term? It's said by people who don't know a damn thing about comic books.
Right.
Because I've used the analogy. So are we going to stop making movies about books? I mean, it's a dumb comment, because not all comic books are the same genre.
Mm-hmm.
They are different genres. And I bet you some of these people don't even realize things like V from Vendetta, From Hell, some of these other things, Perdition, Road to Perdition, which was Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks?
Came from a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
And they just see, okay, it's all spandex and superheroes. Marvel is aware that they can't just throw out just that constantly. So is Warner Brothers. They're going to continue to evolve. They're going to continue to give us something different. And I don't know. It's a silly comment. The Western was one category, you know.
Right.
And guess
that
what?
encompassed a lot.
2 Westerns came out this Christmas, by the way, and one of them is going to get Academy Awards. So
very true. We're still making them, right? We're still making them. I think obviously there'll probably be comic book movies when we're long gone. I hate to say, when they use that term, we've seen it in articles. They're going to be making movies forever. Same with Star Wars and all those other genres. So we shall definitely see, man. So that's Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
okay,
let's get back. We kind of jumped over it and got in our little tangent about comic book. I just want to say one thing about Doctor Strange is, there is a little controversy in the fact that they've been casting the Asian characters as white actors. But just recently, within the last week, now they have cast some Asians, and some of, like Wong has been cast, and it's an Asian character. And I just think what happened with the Ancient One is they didn't want it to look silly and disrespectful, because in the comics he's your traditional. He has the really long mustache, the old Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon kind of.
The mystical Pai Mei type teacher from,
And so I kind of get it. Again, I kind of don't. It's a comic book. Let's embrace the comic bookness. But yeah, I see why they did it. And
definitely.
And then Tilda Swinton is a great actress. So
yeah, again, like I think loaded here. I just remains to be seen. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Not too nervous about it or anything like that. So we'll see how it pulls out. All right, so those are our 6 movies. Let's jump to what our top 3 are in order of anticipation. Even though we did see one already, Andrew, what is your top 3? I don't think it's.
I told you. My number 3 was a really close race between Doctor Strange and Deadpool, and I gave it to Deadpool. And I'm going to stick with that. Of course, I've seen it, so it makes it a little anticlimactic. But yeah, I just felt that Deadpool was going to be a lot of fun. It was going to be a comic book movie and hit all those comic book things I wanted. So yeah, very excited. Number 2, Civil War, Captain America. It's Marvel does movies the way I like them. They catch the essence of my characters. The costumes are close enough. They don't always hit home runs, but worst case scenario, I'm getting a solid double, maybe a triple. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to enjoy this. And then finally, Suicide Squad, because goddamn, does it look fun. And that movie is just going to be such a blast. And like you said,
Awesome.
It's a bummer that we have to wait until the end of the year. But yeah.
No, definitely. That's a good top 3. All right, let me give you mine. Mine have not changed either. I had Deadpool 3rd, and it did give me everything that I wanted, and we'll talk about that on our show on Wednesday night. But I still think it remains 3rd. Number 2 is Suicide Squad. I want to see if there's a theme here. So definitely excited and hyped to see Suicide Squad. But number 1 for me is that bookend that I was talking about earlier in the podcast, and that is Captain America: Civil War. I gotta have that bookend. I know it's going to complete the series. I am super excited. And if you notice, I've picked all the movies where clearly something is not going to go right. I love that anti-hero, even though we've got a bunch of heroes in the other one. Somebody's going to have to be the bad guy in Civil War. Somebody is going to have to be the bad guy. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they draw that out.
I got to call you, though, on your argument, because in Batman and Superman, they're fighting each other, too. So you could say one of them is a bad guy.
Yeah, but like I said, because of the way the director's been directing these movies, I don't know. I'm so afraid that Batman versus Superman, what they'll do is they'll have all that fighting that we've seen in all the trailers right at the very beginning. And then at the end, they're going to be like, all right, bro, let's go save the world. And I'm like, I can't. I'm not. No, Civil War is number 1. I'm ready for it, man.
You made a comment the other night that makes sense, that these 3 movies stand shoulders above the other ones. And it's because I've heard very little complaints about these 3 movies. Like when you go to the different comic book sites, look in the comment section. Yeah, there's a couple of haters that are always hating on everything. But overall, you get nothing but positive remarks about these 3 movies.
Well, I think that's
Batman vs Superman. There's, like I said, there's this whole contingent that's worried about it because of Man of Steel. X-Men has a lot of detractors, and then Doctor Strange just suffers from being at the end of the slate, and
right.
It may end up being better than one of the 3 we picked. We'll just have to wait and see on that one.
Yeah, my thing was that I felt that it was its best standalone trilogy by the time we get to Civil War. Like, if none of the Marvel movies had ever been made, we would still love these 3 particular movies because they set themselves up perfectly, and I think they stand well on their own. And it's the best of that Marvel's done, in my opinion. You know, I liked Iron Man 1 and 2 was okay, and we won't talk about 3, but things like that. But you can say all 3 of the Captain America movies were where they put in their best effort, and I'm waiting to see how it finishes. That's for sure. So also, hey, we got some ones that they didn't make the list, but we need to talk about here real quick. Do you have a couple that's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm interested in a couple of the movies that are more of a video game based, but they do have comics as well, so they kind of have that tie-in and feel. We have Warcraft coming out. It looks, I can see it looks a little shaky here and there, but as a former WoW player and seeing that world come to life, I'm interested. I definitely want to see it. And then you have Assassin's Creed, which again also looks interesting. I don't know what the quality of either of these 2 are going to be. Video game movies have kind of fallen flat, but they look interesting.
That'll be definitely interesting to check out. And then speaking of that World of Warcraft trailer, I'm sitting there and I watch that and I'm like, oh, I had that armor. Oh, I remember that ride. I remember that. Oh, that castle that looks just like. And so everything's the same. So I'm curious about that as well. You're absolutely right. And Assassin's Creed, love the game. We'll see what they do with the movie and see how Michael Fassbender does as its lead. The 2 that I'm thinking about. Definitely comic book worthy. It just didn't completely fit the criteria. We couldn't fit it all in, and that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That last movie they put out was a piece of stuff. But I have to admit, this is the funny part. I've seen the trailers for the new one, and I'm actually kind of curious and excited because they're bringing back a couple of childhood remembrances to me, or at least younger remembrances. Myself too much here. They got Bebop and Rocksteady, and in the most recent trailer, they put in Krang. So I'm curious to see how these characters are going to fit into that world, and I have to admit, I'm definitely I'm a little bit interested in checking that one out. A little bit. And then as a Star Wars geek and movie freak, while they're not, there's comics now, and there's books now, they may not be based on one, let's not forget Rogue One at the end of the year.
Yeah.
First in line or whatever, first seated, however you want to do it nowadays. I'm super stoked to see what they do with that. It just didn't fit the criteria for our discussion today.
And I'm sure there's others, and there's probably something you guys would like us to talk about. Feel free to let us know. You know, we want to talk about all of them, and we just kind of wanted to pick the top 6 that are pretty much in everybody's mind when we come to this genre.
Yep, definitely. I would agree with that. Again, keep in mind, we will be reviewing other movies too, but these are just the top 6 that stand out to us. So there's a bunch out there, and keep an eye out for the reel shots. I'm a movie goer, so I'll be doing a few of those. I love to watch a little bit of anime. I know Speedy G, you're going to be, checking out a few comics here and there, or you may have something to say, or anything like that. And don't forget, as we get going and deeper into our podcasts, Speedy G does do some writing, and if you want a little bit more in depth, or some of the things we might be discussing, we look for some articles and things like that.
Yeah, we'll post that on our Twitter site whenever there's something I've written or there's something we want you guys to check out. Everything in the genre, down from the animated movies that go out by Warner Brothers and Marvel. You also have, like I said, the comics. You have the television shows. We're not into an episode by episode breakdown, but a general feel of what they're doing on television, because they're doing some nice stuff. Netflix as well.
Yep, we'll be touching on those for sure. So don't forget to follow us on our Twitter individually. I'm at voodoo_57. You can find Speedy G at Speedy_G33. I think I said that right. Yeah. And also follow us.
Speedy G.
Yeah, see, that always happens. Also follow us on the Real Comics Podcast Twitter feed, and that's at Real, RELL_podcast. Just look for the RCP logo when you can. All right, I think it's about time to wrap things up, Speedy G, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
But as we do, I do want to send a quick shout out again to some friends that helped us get into that. Andrew and I, again, have been friends for 20 years, and we've been doing it via phone or in person, and we've just discovered a new media that we can do that. And if it wasn't for our friends, they're the ones that gave us the inspiration to do it, and that is Brad Harris, Jim Pugliafico, and Will Lindis. And real quick, I do want to mention, I don't want to go too long longer, Brad Harris today just had some medical issues, nothing major. He is having his gallbladder put out, so we want to send a get well soon out to him. And one last thing to note, they run the Movie Bears podcast. I will be as a guest host on the Movie Bears podcast, I believe Monday. If it doesn't change, we'll see how Brad's doing. And I will give my early review for Deadpool there. So if you just can't wait till Wednesday and you got a moment, tune into the Movie Bears podcast on Monday. But keep tuned to our channel, and we'll let you know if that's going to still happen and when. And if not, we will definitely see Wednesday at about 9 p.m., and we call it Zona Time. Speedy G, got anything else to add?
No, that's about it. That covers it. Go see Deadpool. Get off your computer and go and have a good time.
That's right. Go have some fun. And as we always like to say, 2 things here. No matter what we say, no matter what we think, we will give you our opinion, but go out and see the movie for yourself. Form your own opinion. Every podcast has something different. Every reviewer has something different, but only you know how you feel about these things. And the other thing we love to say is always be your own hero. So take care.
All right. Have a good one. See ya.